All right, welcome to Talking Investing, everybody. Today we have a special guest. We have Sue Ennis from Hut8, and they had a big announcement very recently. So we've talked about this a lot on the channel, but I really was hoping to get Sue in here, and she was nice enough to agree to come and talk to us because I know this is a complicated transaction. So I think hearing from Sue is going to help. So let me just throw it over to you, Sue, just to remind everybody who you are. I know everybody knows who you are already, but who you are and like maybe the Cliff's Notes of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Sue, VP Corp Dev at Hut8. We're one of the oldest and largest miners, and we're also in the traditional data infrastructure space. We announced last week a merger of equals with US Bitcoin Corp. We're incredibly excited about it. And yeah, we're here to answer some of the questions that have come up today on today's show.
All right, great. We have gotten a lot of questions. Obviously, on the channel, we cover the Bitcoin miners a lot, and we cover your company a lot. And I just want to have some things clarified because I'm not 100% sure everybody understands, due to the complicated nature of what you're doing, that they understand what's going on. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was really even just simply go through, you just mentioned a merger of equals. So can you explain how that's going to work as far as the stock goes? Because the way it reads, I think a lot of people are interpreting that somehow US Bitcoin is going to end up with more stock and there's additional dilution. So can you explain, because I know inside of that, effectively, I think you're doing what ends up being a reverse stock split. So because it's more than one thing at once, it's a little confusing.
For sure. And that's why I'm here to chat with you guys today, just so we can hopefully clear up some of the gray areas. Okay, so let's just quickly go over stock consolidation versus dilution, the definitions in corporate finance. So share consolidation, like you said, is a reverse stock split, and it involves dividing the existing total quantity of shares by a number such as 5 or 10, which obviously reduces the total number of shares outstanding by into one new share. And this process decreases the total number of outstanding shares of a company, but should proportionally increase the value of each share of each outstanding share following the consolidation, because you have a reduction in supply but an increase in value. Versus, so for example, a 2-for-1 share consolidation would have the number of outstanding shares of a company, but should result in a doubling of each value of the share. So we have proposed a share consolidation. Dilution, on the other hand, refers to an increase in the number of outstanding shares of a company, which in turn generally reduces the value of each share. So we did not propose dilution, we proposed consolidation. And I think we're going to pull up the chart here and show that. So on our website, we produced an FAQ document under investor materials that walks through what the strategic merger of Hut8 Mining and US Bitcoin Corp would look like from an actual share breakdown. So what Hut8 is starting with going into this transaction is about 220 million common shares outstanding, okay? And then fully diluted in the money shares outstanding is about 221 million, okay? US Bitcoin Corp has current capital stock outstanding of about 64 million shares outstanding, and fully diluted in the money, it's about 65 million shares outstanding. So in order to make it a merger, a 50-50 merger, 50% US Bitcoin Corp shareholders and 50% Hut shareholders, we need to make it 50-50. So the exchange ratio with New Hut is 0.2. And so their exchange ratio with the New Hut8 is 0.67. And this is so we can have a merger of 50% Hut ownership, 50% US Bitcoin Corp ownership. So the new Hut8 shares outstanding for current Hut8 shareholders is going to be 44,231,514 following the transaction. And then the new Hut8 shares outstanding following the transaction for US Bitcoin Corp is going to be the same amount. So as you can see from the above calculation, the number of outstanding shares of new HUD 8 following the completion of the transaction will be approximately 88 million. That means each current shareholder of HUD 8 is going to hold fewer shares following the transaction than they did immediately prior to the closing, but the value of each share of new HUD 8 is going to be expected to be worth proportionately more. So does that explain it a little bit?
Yeah, and if I could just say a few things back at you to make sure we're on the same page. I think one of the critical takeaways that you just provided that it didn't talk about in the initial press release, and it's just another layer of detail, is right now there's 221 million shares fully diluted for HUD 8. When this is all said and done with, it sounds like for what the press release is calling new HUD, there's going to be 88 million shares.
Of new HUD, the proposed merger, again, this is pending shareholder approval. This is, we've still got a lot of steps in place. But yes, the new company proposed shares outstanding is proposed for about 88 million shares outstanding.
So I think that's going to fill in a lot of the gaps for a lot of people, because I received a lot of messages with all kind of different numbers, but knowing that final share count, I think, pulls the entire transaction together. And like you said, you've got your frequently asked questions on this that I think also help clarify this quite a bit. So
yeah. And so the whole purpose was to adjust the number of outstanding common shares, like we've talked about, to levels that are better aligned with companies of new HUD's expected size and scope. And it's another step in our journey into becoming a more diversified, resilient, and stronger business, really. So we thought it was a really important piece of this pie.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think that helps. Then the second biggest question I would say that I got is in regard to your hodl strategy. So you guys have been pretty adamant hodlers. I don't think you've sold a Bitcoin in a couple of years now. And as a function of what you're proposing to do here, at least on a short-term basis, that strategy is going to change. So I guess my question would be, the way I read the press release is essentially in the interim period of time, you guys are not going to hodl the Bitcoin that you're mining.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the press release said that I guess you would take a look at your treasury strategy if and when the time comes, if all this goes through. So I guess the big question that people have is, what does this mean to your stack? So you guys have, 9,200 plus Bitcoin on your balance sheet. Is that going to disappear? Is that going to cut in half? What? And obviously you can't give us an exact number, but in general, what kind of impact do you think that's going to have on your, never mind the Bitcoin you're mining during these months? It sounds like you're selling, but what's your total Bitcoin situation going to look like?
Yeah. So again, I'm obviously limited only to talking about publicly available information, but look, so we've, as of yesterday, or as of this morning's announcement, we've got 9,274 unencumbered Bitcoin on our balance sheet. That is still the highest amount of self-mined Bitcoin on our balance sheet of any publicly traded company. Now, one of the reasons why we've been able to successfully build for so long in both bear and bull markets is because we've taken a balance sheet first approach to everything that we do. And what we mean by that in this case is you can't control macroeconomic forces, which you and your audience know, but you can certainly control how you manage your cash and your Bitcoin balance, and whether or not you are reliant on unattractive financing terms. From a strategic perspective, we feel in order to, get to this next era of shareholder value creation and support this merger, that being strategic with our reserve, how we use it, and, selling a piece of our production is one of the best options, or is the option that we have deemed most appropriate. Again, because so that we're not reliant on unattractive financing terms up and, going into what we hope is a shareholder approved close on this transaction.
Okay. And then obviously I think the rest of this answer to this question happens if and when the merger occurs and you guys revisit your treasury your treasury strategy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in the sense that, we want to be smart business operators, right? And we want to be less reliant on dilutive sources of funding for the business. And so part of the thing that we love about this US BTC, proposed merger is that it comes with CapEx light and scalable lines of fiat-based revenues with our managed infrastructure operations. We've got now, additional hosting line of business, plus still, a proposed 5.6 exahash of mining that would be available upon close in this new HUD company. So it's really exciting, the amount of CapEx light scaling opportunities here. And again, we haven't disclosed our growth plans beyond the proposed hopeful successful merger, because again, we just need to make sure that we're staying conservative. And yeah, we will certainly update you with the growth plans once and if this goes through.
Well, I think that's consistent with what you guys have done all along. You've let us know things, when you're ready. So I understand. Well, you brought up a point in there that I want to follow up on. One of the things that the proposed new company will do is host. So I know, looking at a lot of the publicly traded companies, the hosting portion of their business has not necessarily been a strength. Let's just say that. So do you guys have a different formula with what you're looking to go into, where you expect that to be a profit center?
Yeah. So again, I can't confirm any projected values at all. And I need to stay on side here with regulation.
Absolutely.
But look, we're very excited about this managed infrastructure operations business. So this is a purpose-built platform that has been built in-house for effectively electron management. And it's like a software layer that optimizes energy infrastructure businesses. So for example, what this platform can do is effectively power up and power down on a miner by miner basis, and effectively arbitrage where is the best ROI for this electron in this moment of time. So do we sell that back to the grid? Do we put that towards mining? And also part of this sort of MIO business is it also includes property management, maintenance, efficiency, uptime, strategic curtailment, which I just talked about, even bringing in hosting clients for our clients who are working with us. And so it's a very, as I mentioned earlier, it's CapEx light, it's scalable, and it's a way to optimize infrastructure and infrastructure management and effectively arbitrage electrons. So this is not just a hosting business, right? This is another layer that sits on top of a certain X amount of megawattage that is going to be dedicated to hosting.
All right, so that I'm going to jump to another one of what I think was the most important questions, because I think you just answered it. This was obviously your initial press release. As shareholder, there's going to be a shareholder vote on this. Is there more information coming prior to obviously the shareholders having to make a decision? Yes, do they want this merger? And what time frame is that coming in?
Yeah, so I can't confirm a time frame, but I can certainly tell you that we will have more publicly available information disclosed so that our shareholders can get a better understanding as to the meaning and the numbers behind this business.
Okay. One of the other things that was mentioned in there along the same lines is I think that you're going to provide a bridge. I'm calling a small bridge loan, but $6 or $8 million or something to that effect. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there more debt out there? Is that something you can talk about, or do we need to wait essentially for these additional information releases that you're going to be giving in the future?
I'm going to have public filings for you guys as soon as possible, and then that'll show, like I said, the publicly disclosed numbers that you guys can have a look at. And again, I'm happy to come on after if there's still a lot of questions outstanding. We're happy to do another call with you if we need to talk a little bit more about those materials when they become available.
Yeah, I think that's a key part of what's going on next. It's a little bit early. Obviously, everybody's going to react to a press release like that, but the bottom line is it seems like there's a lot more information to come, and we should probably try to parse that information when we get it versus speculate as to what it's going to be. So hopefully that means that you can come back on maybe,
Yeah.
after the next release of information, and we could talk some more.
I'd love that.
So I think you've hit most of my main questions. I know you didn't have a lot of time, so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Hopefully this has shed some light on some of the things it did for me. So hopefully this has for everybody else shed a little bit of light and clarified a few things that questions that were floating around out there.
And just remember, my Twitter handle is @BigSuey, BIGSUEY. My DMs are open. I'm happy to talk to shareholders one-on-one, because again, this is obviously a very transformative time for Hut 8 and for our shareholders. And so I'm happy to chat with you guys anytime.
Okay, I do have to sneak in one more question on you.
Yes.
I forgot to ask, what does this mean for Sue? What's
I mean, so far it's looking like Sue's going to continue to be, on the corp dev side, head of IR. So I'll certainly continue chatting with you guys. And yeah, I'm personally very excited about what this means for our business.
outstanding? I'm glad to hear it, and we look forward to talking to you again when more information is available.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Sue.
See ya.